Hello, friends. I just want to talk to you briefly about the intermodal transfer, which is kind of the basis of the expressive arts therapy. And it was coined by Nell, who started the expressive arts therapy at Lesley University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where I studied for a year. It's a really cool place. I've done a couple of workshops at Lesley in drama therapy and dance music therapy. If you're able to do something like that, I highly would suggest you check it out. You can learn a lot from them, and a lot of times we do it. And so I'm studying to be an art therapist. It doesn't mean I have to use just art therapy. I can use the other modalities if I know how to kind of get a client back to the art therapy arena where I know how to do stuff with purpose and intention. However, just because someone is in the expressive arts and an expressive arts therapist does not mean they need to use all of them. They can focus in one, they can consciously shift between one and another. It all kind of depends on their client's needs. The expressive arts therapy degree and credentials just sort of give you more tools in your toolbox if you know how to use them. And so the intermodal transfer is one of my favorite parts, and that is the idea that the therapy is not in the art making. It's not in making a collage of what I want to be. It's not in the music of being in a drum circle or the drama of doing some kind of improv. The therapy is in the transfer between an activity of a different modality, because you can see on brain scans that certain parts of the brain light up when you're using certain modalities. Art would use a lot of visual. For example, music, you have a lot of this rhythm and this balancing, which is great. And obviously, dance and music, we have a lot of that cerebellum and balance. And we learn to talk later in life. We learn to draw kind of later in life in a way. And so some of our earlier memories that we need to unlock, they're not stored in a talking area of the brain. They're stored somewhere else, much more emotional, somewhere in the senses. And so we try and wiggle it out by doing a little here, doing a little there. We'll get a nugget of information here, and we'll use a different sort of modality to try and explore that more, so we're not hitting dead end walls of what we think we're supposed to show. It gives a new perspective on things. So I really like drama and other improv for the same reason that I like art assessments, because basically the brain is lazy and it takes shortcuts. And so rather than, if you have a character or a bird's nest or something, rather than taking the time to specifically come up with a unique backstory, your brain will dip into the things that are naturally bothering you, that you might not be aware of, you might not have words for, but you'll say that character is doing this. That character doesn't have any friends. That character, their mother's never coming back. These are all from my drama therapy workshop that I was in. And so there's a sense of safety that I'm not saying it. They're saying it's not me. I get the catharsis of saying it, but they're the ones that are saying it. So that can be great for one purpose, the movement and the kinesthetic for another, because the body remembers trauma. We hold it in our muscles. If we get into certain body positions, just like a certain smell, it will all kind of come back to you. The feeling of being held can trigger certain thoughts and emotions. Having to trust someone and feel that feedback, that's not something that we really get in music. But music's also great because it has words often, but also music that has this rhythm to it that's born out of emotion. And so it really does make you feel the lyrics, like Somewhere Over the Rainbow. First, you have the actual lyrics of it's somewhere, but then you have this huge octave change from somewhere that it's safe to somewhere over the rainbow. And so the intermodal transfer is fantastic for moving nuggets of information. Maybe we'll sort of start in a movement. So if you had a poor relationship with your mother, we might ask you to adopt the posture that she had or the posture that you had, or sort of demonstrate with your body the sort of melody or the movement, if it's shuffling feet, if it's closed off. And so we'll start with that part of the brain, open that up to this feeling. And with that feeling, maybe we would go into art where we draw sort of them as lines and circles and other formal elements in yourself. And you can see sort of what's unpredictable, what's repeated, what's sort of hard. You get a sort of emotion from just how they're depicted. And so you might then take that art form and say, you know, everyone's complicated, but we're going to pick, just what you depicted here. Try and find a song that represents her and a song that represents you. And you have to look for the song and hear it, and then might pick out some lyrics from both of them, those words. And you might shift into drama where you have to act out saying it, and you have to act out saying it angry, and act out saying it sad, and act out saying it's sort of this gleefully happy. And so it really makes it less intimidating if you're sort of laughing at these kinds of things, which is great with drama therapy. You can get away from the actual reality, and it's make believe, but it's that shortcut that I'm talking about. So now that you're more comfortable, you've explored it with other emotions, now we can go towards bibliotherapy, and we can sort of write a poem that includes that line, and it might repeat that line. And so now we're tapping into more of that words section. And then you might bring it back down into dance and movement. What sort of dance does this poem song have? Is there a beat of a drum that goes with it? Is it slow? Is it more of a happy? Does it change? And you can look at how that differs from the original movements that you were doing with this person. And then you might go back into drama, this dance that you do from this poem that you had, how do you exhibit? How is it in your life? And you sort of act out if you did the same thing with your children. And now you might draw what your relationship with your children is like, what you want your children with your relationship is like, and then you can look at, well, is that similar to how you drew your relationship, you and your mom? Is there a repeating thing happening here? And so that's what expressive arts therapy is, and that's what intermodal transfer is that sort of polishing off of the nugget by moving to a different area of the brain with a different activity and a different perspective. And that's what I wanted to share. You can use that in art therapy if you want. You can use a song, ask them to bring in songs that make them feel that represented the week. And you might use some drawing of how that song makes you feel, or a collage of some of the words that are in it, or a lot of people do paint to music. That's a common art intervention that you could do. There's a machine one I think is really great, because you can do in art, create an invention that would fix something in your life, and you can draw it, and that's on the cognitive region of the ETC. But especially if you're in a group in your family, maybe each of you made a different invention, and now I want you to come together and sort of use your bodies together to sort of make that invention, and you have to move in sync with each other, and I might ask one person to sort of get out of sync, and we have to see how the rest of you respond to it. It's really great. You can definitely do a lot, and art therapists do work with music therapists, and art therapists do work with drama therapists. I don't believe they often work together at the same time, but that they see the same client, and then they'll transfer it to the other therapist. And then next week, both of you will see it at your regular time slot. But I know that hospitals have music therapy and dance movement therapy and art therapy all sort of working together, which is fantastic. And I was reading a wonderful article, I think someone's thesis, that they were a music therapy major, and especially with younger children, they weren't set on just doing music therapy. You don't always have the benefit of being in a studio that's just for your specific needs, such as if you're in a school, there may be toys, there may be art supplies, there may be music supplies, and they might not want to do your activity. They might want to do something else. And so it can be helpful to know why they're doing that, how that applies to what your degree is, how you can use that purposefully and use it to direct them back to what you know how to do. So that's intermodal transfer, everyone. Have a good one.